Wabash Carnegie Public Library. Wabash Carnegie Public Library Oral History Program. Interviewing Mrs. R.H. Mabel Launder at her home, 192 Stitt Street, Wednesday, July 25th, 1973. Thank you for taking the time today to do this. Now I'm going to ask you, the first question is when and where you were born.
I was born in Urbana, Indiana, January 24th, 1896.
So this year you...
So I am 77. Next year I will be 78.
And what was your father's name and your mother's maiden name?
Well, my father's name was Samuel Snyder Renner, and my mother's name was Emma Jane Freshour.
And what did your dad do for a living?
When my father married my mother, he worked in a drugstore and even dispensed drugs in Urbana. His brother, Dr. Mabel Renner, owned the drugstore and was the town doctor, and he employed my father in the drugstore.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I didn't have any.
You were an only child?
I was an only child.
I'll be darned. I didn't know that.
I always felt badly about it, too.
Did you really?
Oh, I should say.
What was it like growing up in Urbana before?
I didn't grow up in Urbana. I'm sorry.
What happened?
I don't ever remember of living in Urbana. And I used to tell my mother and father when I grew up, I thought they should have found a better place to have me born.
Did you move to Wabash?
We moved to Wabash. My father came the 1st of January of the 1st of January of 98 to work for Mr. Ed Bechtel in the Bechtel shoe store.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think he made more than $10 a week, if he made that much.
Uh-huh.
These things are vague in my mind.
Uh-huh.
And Mother and I came just a little later, as soon, I suppose, as he found someplace for us to live. And we lived in a house on Allen Street, the corner of Allen and Walnut Street, the southwest corner.
Mm-hmm.
And the house is very much today as it was then, except that the front porch is glassed in.
Uh-huh. Did your dad continue to work then at Bechtel Shoe Store?
He did until his father died.
And
And that was about 1900. I said,
that's okay. We can correct all this when we go over the tape.
his father, my father's father, was Dr. John Henry Renner.
Mm-hmm.
And he practiced medicine in LaGro.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might have been another doctor there, but he was the doctor there.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was one of 7 boys.
Mm-hmm.
And when he died, he had quite an estate in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And each one, he had 9 children, 2 girls and these 7 boys.
Mm-hmm.
And they each inherited, at that time, what would be considerable
Mm-hmm.
inheritance,
Yeah.
you know.
Uh-huh.
So they took this money, and my father left the shoe store, the Bechtel shoe store, and established, the brothers did, the Renner Brothers Shoes.
Mm-hmm. And what year would that have been about?
Well, that would be about, that must have been 1905.
1905. How many brothers were in the business?
Oh, wait a minute. It wouldn't have been 1905. It would have been, his grandfather died in 1900. Now, I'm estimating this by how old I was and what I remember of that funeral. And I was I was more than 4 and 5 years old.
This would have been Grandpa's funeral.
Yes, my grandfather's funeral.
Yes.
And that was, I'm sure, maybe in 1901. Well, then it must have been a year or so later than that they established the shoe store, which would be 1903, I expect.
And where was the shoe store?
The shoe store was right there where Mark's Camel Shop is.
That'd be the second door east of Wabash Street on the north
Wouldn't
side
it
of
be
Canal
next
Street.
to the bank?
Right next to the old bank.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I think so.
Oh.
And 60 years later, my father's grandson
Right.
started Mark's Camel Shop there.
In the same store.
Same store, exactly.
Well, I'll be there. So we have a 60-year generation gap there.
Yes.
In retail business. What do you remember of the shoe store?
Oh, I remember it was busy, as could be. And I remember that my father got up almost every morning at least by 6 o'clock he'd be down at the store because people came early, farmers. This was a farming community, and the farmers came in. And if it was bad weather, he was down at 4 o'clock to have it open because he knew that he'd have a tremendous business on boots, you know. Everything was muddy around Wabash in those days. And I remember that about it. Then I remembered that the store was open every night.
Until what time?
Oh, I expect 9 or 10 o'clock. I can't recall just how, but how I remember that is that when they when they established the fact that they were going to close the stores on some weekday nights, oh my. He just didn't know whether that was going to work or not, you know. And the merchants were upset about it. They thought you had to stay open, you know. But they found out that you didn't, you know, have to. And I know my husband always felt that he'd get up to go downtown, you know, at 7 o'clock, and I'd say, you can't get in the stores. Oh, he said they wait till half the day's over before they
get started. Well, then you really didn't see much of your father growing up if he were left early in the morning, got home late at night, probably only on Sunday.
Oh, yes, we were a close family.
Were you?
My goodness, yes. We were a very close family.
Did he come home for lunch?
Yeah, sure, always. I don't ever remember him not coming home for lunch, unless you know. And more than that, my poor mother was an excellent cook. She never knew who she was going to have because my father was a very outgoing man, very friendly, and had loads of friends. And, of course, all the people in the country round knew him. And if somebody came in that was anyways near related to us, he'd bring him home for dinner at noon, you know. She never knew who she was going to have.
Did you stay in the same house on Allen Street then?
No. We moved shortly after that down on Maple Street, where an uncle of mine, his name was Joseph Sullivan, and he was the agent at the Wabash. And he was promoted to a much better job with the Wabash Railroad and went to Fort Wayne. And we moved in their house.
On Maple?
On Maple.
Where is it located?
Well, let's see. It's off 2 doors east on Maple, off of Allen, just about 2 blocks down from where we did live, you know. Then in just a short while, we moved down to that old brick house there. I call it back of the Wabash Depot. You know where the Wabash station is? Well, of course, there was a big old-fashioned station there then. And some of the train stops and some of them didn't. And we lived there for quite a while. Oh, we lived all around. most people rented in those days. There weren't too many that owned their own homes. It wasn't made as easy for them as it is now to have a home.
Did your parents rent then?
Yeah, we rented. They rented.
Was the cigar factory there in those days?
Yes, the cigar factory was across the street.
Uh-huh.
It was it was on the railroad tracks,
Right.
just across from the depot.
I understand also that there was some kind of a restaurant or an outdoor gardens right around the depot there someplace.
I don't know.
Don't remember that?
No, I don't remember.
Where did you go to school? Grade school?
Well, I went to the Miami. That was the only school to go to in Wabash. You had to live where you could go to the Miami.
Mm-hmm. And who were your teachers? And do you remember the principal?
Yes, I think I do. Margaret Robertson started me,
Mm-hmm.
and she had started this uncle that I spoke about, the Wabash agent.
Uh-huh.
He'd gone to school to her.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, he was old enough to be my father, and I went to school to her. And, let's see, I went to Earth Ackerman was principal at one time. I had her through the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a system in the Miami at that time that you did go to the 7th grade for certain subjects, and you did go, even when I was going to school, you did that.
Mm-hmm.
You marched back and forth to study certain subjects under the 8th grade teacher, and Mrs. Markley was the principal,
Mm-hmm.
but she wasn't the principal very long, and she was a wonderful woman, but everybody in the school was scared to death of her.
Did you have friends that you continue to this day? That you
Oh, yes.
Who would they have been?
Well, there was Esther Graff. That's Esther Albert Graff. And the Alberts lived on the corner over here.
Right.
And Sue Stevens, Vera Somerton Frostine, and Sue Smith Stevens, that was, and Marguerite Doherty. I can't think of it fast today.
But these are all friends and children that you went to school with?
Gladys Milner Bloomer, all the Milner girls.
And you've maintained your friendship with these
Oh,
people
sure.
all through the years?
Yes, and yesterday, going on ahead, I had a reunion. Mary Davis, you remember Joe Davis that used to live, his daughter was here. Mary Davis Tucker and her niece, Mrs. Livengood from Covington, Kentucky, were here. And we got our school friends together. We belonged to a 1914 club. We graduated in 1914 from the Wabash High School.
Mm-hmm.
And they came, and of course, the sad part of all this is that so many have gone on.
Mm-hmm. True.
And so it makes it kind of sad when you get together because you're getting smaller. There were 14 in this club. And Leora, Mrs. Frank Steele, Leora Hahn Steele, she lived on the south side. And Elizabeth Harkness Snowberger, her father and her grandfather were in charge of White's Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And that time it was a school for Indians.
Mm-hmm. I've read about that.
And then it was a school when they were there, it was established as a school for Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the Harknesses were there, and they were very prominent people and very wonderful people, they had orphans mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And now, of course, it's mostly incorrigible children, isn't
Right.
it?
Yes, I understand. Well, you went from Miami School then, getting ahead, we went right into Wabash High School and graduated in the class of 1914.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
And that was right before World War I. World War I hadn't started until...
Then after I graduated from high school, I worked in my father's shoe store as a bookkeeper
Yes.
for 2 years until I was married.
Uh-huh.
And then I was married June 1st, 1916.
Well, how did you find the retail business and working in the store?
Oh, I loved to sell shoes. I sold shoes, too.
Did you?
Uh-huh.
And
I'm sure I know how to fit shoes.
Yes. Well, his brothers were still active also at that time?
They established the Renner brothers, 4 of them.
What were their names?
Established 2 stores. Charles Renner and James Renner established one in Huntington. And my father and his brother Uriah Renner established this one here. My father sort of was the manager of both the stores, but my uncle Uriah worked for the Marion Rubber Company and sold rubber goods.
On the road?
Yeah. On the road.
How did you meet Mr. Launder, your intended groom, husband?
Well, I met him in high school. He was taking a postgraduate course, and he asked me to go to a dance. And I said, well, I'd have to ask my mama. So that noon, when I came back to school, he said, did you ask your mama? And I've been telling my folks that I was having dates with him. I told them that I was going to or something. I had him all picked out long before I think he knew it. Wouldn't you know?
Well, sure.
You know, I've been accused of asking him to marry me, but I really didn't. Oh, I had no idea of that. That was his idea, it wasn't mine. And then we were married. Well, we went together 5 years, I think. I was just a freshman in high school when I met him.
What was his background? What was Mr. Launder's background?
Well, he lost his mother when he was 4 years old.
Right, he was from Wabash.
Oh, yes, he was born. His father built this little house over here, right on the bend as you go around Ferry Street. There's a little sort of a store box house there. It was just a little square house. I think it's been changed a little bit now. But it's very much like it was when he built it, and that's where they lived, and that's where he was born, in that house over there.
What did his father do?
Well, his father was Mr. Honeywell's brother, and of course he grew out on the Honeywell place out here, and he had the orchards, they say in this book. The Honeywells had it was their property, it was their orchards, and he just helped around. Then I saw that Mark in this book, where Mark was in this mill business where they made buckwheat and sorghum molasses and lots of things, you know. I never knew that. I thought that was Ray's. He didn't work at that. He didn't have time. He had his fingers in so many different pies, you know, that you couldn't possibly have stayed there and worked at that because you had to be there every day.
Now that was Ray's father.
Yes, and that was Ray's father. And Uncle Mark, you see, he was busy with the orange business and the bicycle business and the plumbing business. So I don't know whether, I really don't know about that. But then Ray's father built on that property out there a greenhouse, and they furnished vegetables out of season to in the winter they had a big heating system out there, you know. I suppose with a Honeywell regulator on it, I don't know. But I know when the weather was awful cold that Ray'd go out there and stay all night and keep the furnaces going because you had to shovel the coal, you know. And they raised perfectly beautiful little tomatoes out of hothouse tomatoes. It was a hothouse is what it was.
But now you told me that the orchards were actually out on
the Launder orchards.
Launder orchards.
Were, and I wouldn't say that these others were the Launder orchards. I would say that they were the Honeywell. If that's where the orchard, you know, most people thought that all those apples we sold we got off that place right out there, and that is just would be impossible. Well, we had thousands of bushels of apples, you know.
Well, when you and Mr. Launder decide to get married, now what is he doing for a living then? What's Ray doing for a living?
Ray worked for the Honeywell Specialty Company.
he was with Mr. Honeywell then?
Yes, he was with Mr. Honeywell then. Then his father wanted to start these orchards, and they just started them. There was a good many years where they didn't do anything, you know. I mean, they didn't produce. Mm-hmm. So.
But the Launder orchards then would be where the entrance to the Honeywell Gardens are
Yeah,
now.
there were 40 acres there. There was more than that. There was 50-some. The woodlot went with, we had the woodlot. Uh-huh. And, then Mark decided after he was building out there that he'd like to have the woodlot. Uh-huh. So they deeded the woodlot to him.
Now this property that we're right now, the corner of Stitt and Cass Street, yeah. Were there orchards here also?
Oh, no. Will Albert built this house for his bride. Uh-huh. That was, and they had 2 children, Philip Albert and Elizabeth Albert McGee, who lives in Wabash now. Mm-hmm. Philip Albert is dead just recently. Mm-hmm. And shortly after those children were born, she developed tuberculosis. Mm-hmm. And died. But this house was built new by him for that, and Mr. Harry McNamee wired this house.
Probably right. Weren't there orchards out north of here, though?
Well, they said, you know where the mill is.
Yes.
And the house. You know where Lois lives.
Yes.
And where the Zimmermans lived. Well, our land there, the Honeywell land, was bordered on the south by Coleraine, on the north by Harrison, on the west by Cass, and on the east by Albert Street. Now, I still have all of that except the bank, mm-hmm. and Lois's home, mm-hmm. and the Zimmerman home. The rest of it I own.
But there were no orchards here?
The orchards they talk about were north of the mill.
North of the mill?
Yeah, and that was only 13 acres to begin with. Uh-huh. And now I have 9 there.
Yes.
Now, you know they couldn't have had many apples.
They couldn't have many
But it
apples.
must have seemed like an awful lot. And in those days, people had their own orchard. I mean, they had their own apple trees. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And cherry trees and pear trees, peach trees.
When you and Mr. Launder were married, then, he was still working for Mr. Hunter?
No. He had left and gone out. They had bought this land, and they planted these young orchards out there. They planted, the first one they planted was 20 acres, and then they planted 2 more of 10 acres each, but they didn't plant them all at the same time, you know.
Mm-hmm. And that was the only occupation he had? He didn't go in the wintertime and work for Mr. Honeywell?
No, he didn't.
Well, and then here we are, we're up to the point in your life where you're married. How did you first meet Mr. Honeywell then? You told me one time.
Well, then, you see, Ray didn't take me to that dance where I met Mr. Honeywell. Mr. Honeywell had another nephew, and he took me to the dance. Mm-hmm. And the dances they had down there in that old gym, I don't think anyone ever had better times than the people did in Wabash in those days. We couldn't go very often. It was a very special occasion when you had a dance. And you always had a wonderful orchestra. And from Chicago or someplace where they really had them, you know. Mm-hmm. There weren't very many, if any, local, you know, like you can get a little band together and have a dance now. Now you just have it talking. You have a recorder.
Right.
But then you really had it, you know, and they just responded to the crowd, you know, and they played at 4 o'clock in the morning for you.
But your first contact with Mr. Honeywell, then you met him through his nephew who took you to one of these dances.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I did. Here I am saying yeah.
Yes.
Say yeah.
We'll correct that later.
You be sure say yeah.
Yeah, you correct it later.
Yes, I did, and I was real young. I must not have been more than 14 years old when Kenneth Vargas took me to this dance. And, the crowd, and Mark and Olive had a wonderful crowd in Wabash. And as I told you once before, the more successful he became, and the wealthier he became, the friends they were still his friends, but they felt in awe, I think, of him, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think he missed that terribly.
Do you think so?
Oh, I do indeed. Because the older you get, you return to the days of your youth. That's the truth. And I think that his love for Wabash, I bet when he was young he didn't think so much of Wabash. I just have a feeling. You know how they're no different today than they were, they're no different than they are today. And the young people are kind of bored with Wabash when they come back if they've been away to school or someplace, you know.
Sure.
And my mother and father knew Olive and Mark when they went to dances. And where do you think they went? They went to Spikerville.
Spikerville.
To dances. That's where they met them. My mother used to tell, you know, of seeing them out there and knowing who they were and so on and so forth. But everybody knew one another then in Wabash. I could go downtown and speak to almost everybody and knew who they were and knew them well, you know. Now I go downtown, I can't, unless I meet George Dingledye or somebody like that.
You don't
Harold Wolf.
Right, you don't see too many familiar faces. And you work downtown.
Yes, and I work downtown. Yes. And Mr. Bradley, bless his heart, I thought so much of him, and I've got to have some here. The Bradley family, they were a wonderful family in Wabash. And Mr. Bradley was such a fine man. He became interested in this Mark's boy. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Mark's Bill?
Yeah, I suppose his name was Bill Marks. He was just really a little waif. Mm-hmm. But he was a handsome little chap. And he'd come in Bradley's store. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Bradley took such a liking to him. And he let him work in the store, and he kept that child. He educated him in everything. Hmm. So he owes his education and
success
and his success to Mr. Bradley. Yeah. But Bradley's drugstore then was on the corner of Wabash. Well, it's where Brock's music
It'd be right across the street from where your store
yes,
was.
Yes, right across the street from where. And up above on the top floor was a ballroom. Mm-hmm. And Mrs. Jack Kennedy had a dancing. She taught dancing.
Ballroom dancing?
Ballroom. Oh, yes, ballroom dancing, nothing else.
No tap dancing or ballet?
No. I do remember when the tango began to come in that there were a couple of couples that learned to do it, you know, very beautifully. And when they got out to tango, everybody else got off the floor, you know. Yeah. But she taught it. From 7 to 8, she had a class on, I think, Wednesday evenings. And then after that class was over, she opened it up, and all the kids that knew how to dance come in. And did we have a time? That was wonderful, really. I used to like to dance better than eat. That was really something.
How did, starting off married life now, Mr. Launder's working in the orchard, and where are you living?
Well, we were living at 80s Maple Street. We were married at 80s Maple, and that is right across from Dennis's north, across from the Dennis place. And that was a big double house, and we lived on the east side of it. And I was known as a girl on 80s Maple Street. And we lived there with my folks. I was no new child, you see. And we needed to do that. I mean, that wasn't necessary for us to be married, that we would all live together. And we lived that way always.
You did?
Yes. We never really had a home of our own until my mother passed away, and I inherited this home.
How old would you have been? How long had you been married when that happened?
Oh, let's see. She's been gone Well, she died in 1950, and this is 1973. It's pretty near 50 and 70. Well, it's pretty near 25 years, isn't it?
Did Mr. Launder and you and your mother and father all lived in the same house? And
we all lived together.
How long have we done? That is unusual. Nowadays.
And we always, well, if it hadn't been for my husband, he was a marvelous man.
Yes.
And we just never had any trouble at all.
I'll be there.
Of course, Mother helped rear the kids, you know.
That helped, too.
Yeah. Mark, I always said Mark was my mother's child. And they all called her Mama, because I called her Mama, you know. They all called her Mama. And my father they called Papa. But he died had only been married just, not just 10 years when my father died. And then it was essential
that she stayed.
That we stay with her, you see.
What happened to your father?
Well, he had a stroke up at Yellow Creek Lake. They had a cottage up there, and he had a stroke up there and died right away the same day he had the stroke.
Did your mother retain the interest in the shoe store? Or?
No, she didn't.
She got out?
Well, she got out the hard way.
Yeah. Was it satisfactory, or all the hard feelings or anything?
No hard feelings, but just, you know.
That's what happens in families sometimes, you know.
Yes, it does. Yeah. It's too bad, too.
Well, how about Mr. Launder's career, then? How's it progressing?
Well, he was, Mr. Honeywell had an automobile, and it had needed a new top put on it. And he went out to have Ray come down and put that new top on his car. And so he went down. I think it was down the Honeywell factory at that time, and office was across from where the paint dealer is now.
On Canal Street?
Yeah.
Yes, on West Canal.
And so Ray went down there and worked. And Mr. Shivers was the chief engineer. And he said to Mark, he said, you better not let that fella get away from here. So Mark made him a proposition, and he went to work for Honeywell. Till he had to go back when his father wasn't able to look after the orchards anymore. Ray really was an engineer. He was not an agriculturist. He wasn't a horticulturist. He did that because he had to, or felt he had to. He was very loyal. They were very loyal to their families.
Now, of course, Mr. Honeywell would have been uncle.
About the time the Second World War started.
Wabash Carnegie Public Library Oral History Program, interviewing Mrs. Raymond Launder at her home, 192 Stitt Street, Wabash, Indiana, Wednesday afternoon, May 22nd, 1974.
It was sent to me, and it's in regard to my grandfather, Renner.
Yes. Well.
And so I thought that we might start with the Renner name.
Okay, fine. Why don't we go back first and start with you? Why don't you give me your full maiden name and your date of birth?
Okay.
Yeah, then we'll start that way.
My full maiden name is Mabel LaVonne Renner.
Right.
And I was born January 24th, 1896.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about your family. Tell me about your mother and father.
Well, my mother and father were reared in LaGro and Wabash County, in the vicinity around LaGro, and they were married on October the 2nd, 1894. I presume, in Wabash County.
Uh-huh.
They went to housekeeping in Urbana.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I was born in Urbana. In 90, they were married on October the 2nd, 1894, and then they went to housekeeping in Urbana right away. And I was born in Urbana. I used to kid my mother about that. Thought she should have found a little bigger place for me to be born.
What was your mother's maiden name?
She was Emma Jane Freshour. And I think the Freshhours were well known in that vicinity, too.
What did your... Go ahead.
My father worked for his brother, who owned the drugstore, and his brother was Dr. M.E. Renner. And this was... he came to Wabash then in the fall of 1897, and he worked for Ed Bechtel in his shoe store. He was paid $6 a week. And in the spring, Mother and I joined him here, and I was 2 years old then, so I've been a native of Wabash for 76 years. I really know no other home than Wabash. And we lived on the southeast corner of Walnut and Allen Streets, and the house is almost identical as it was then. We lived neighbors to the Hipskins, Philip Hipskin, that was Homer Hipskin's family. And in 1901, my grandfather Renner, Dr. John Henry Renner, who lived in LaGro, died. And it was said that he had quite an estate. But it could not be collected because most of it was on books, you know. That was the days when you had credit. But the children, each one, there were 7 of them, received, I think, $2,000 of fees.
From his estate?
From his estate. So that wasn't to be sneezed at in those times, you know. And 4 of the boys took their money and bought or started 2 shoe stores, one in Wabash and one in Huntington. And the one in Wabash was on Canal Street, right just west of Wabash Street, on the north side of the street. And that is the place that our son, Mark Launder, opened his camera shop just 60 years after his grandfather had opened that store there in conjunction with Uriah Renner here. And James Renner and Charles Renner were in the Huntington store. And
did you ever hear your father say why he picked the shoe business?
No, I never did. If you that...
You say your father really wanted to be a doctor?
Yeah, but well, I don't think this is sort of derogatory, I think, to my mother. But she discouraged him in that. Now, why would I know? I think it's a dreadful thing to have done. He'd made a marvelous doctor because he had a lot of personality. And he was so interested in people, you know.
In other words, his father was a doctor and none of the children...
Well, that's what I wanted to go back
go ahead.
With you. But since we're on the shoe stores, I want to tell you that I recall that the stores were open every night during the week till 9 o'clock. And then some group of merchants decided that they'd better not, that was too many nights to steal. So gradually those nights were canceled out, you know. And they finally got down to where you're just open one night a week. And my father thought that was a terrible thing to do. He thought sure that everybody'd fail in business, you know. And I also remember that whenever it was bad weather and it rained, he'd get up around 4 o'clock in the morning and get ready and go to the store. And the reason for that was that the farmers would all be in to get rubber boots and rubber wear, and he wanted to be there to get the business. So he went. He was an early riser, always. I'd like to tell you about the Renner family, if I may.
Sure, go right ahead. That's what we want.
This was taken from the history of Wabash County, so this isn't anything I thought up to write. But from 1866 to 1930, the name of Renner was a very prominent name in the medical circles of Wabash County. My grandfather, Dr. John H. Renner, practiced for many years at LaGro, and my uncle, Dr. M.E. Renner, practiced at Urbana for 30 years. My grandfather came to Wabash County and to LaGro in 1866, and he had his degree he'd gone to Otterbein University, and then a Starling Medical College in Columbus, Ohio, but he got his MD from the Chicago Medical School. And he had been married, and his wife had died, and he came to LaGro as a widower with 2 young children. And 3 years after he came, he married my grandmother, Jenny McVicar, and she was young enough to be his daughter, I discovered by figuring.
Yeah.
And so she went with him. He was an old country doctor, and every time he was called, he went. And he was really very highly thought of. They loved him. And because of his kindness to the people of the county and surroundings there. And he took care of them very well. And my grandmother drove for him. She drove the horse and the rig. And my father always got up when he was home. No matter when they got a call in the night, he'd get up, and that was the first thing, to get Sammy up to hitch the horse up, to the rig, and off they'd go. And really, she did that all of their lives together. She was just a constant companion to him. He was very good with typhoid fever, and that was very prevalent in those days, And he had the reputation of knowing and losing the least patients of any doctor in Indiana. He was considered very highly on that score. He seemed to know what he was doing. When he came with these 2 children, they were educated, of course, in the LaGro around there. I don't know what kind of schools they had then. And his son, Dr. M.E. Renner, went with him on calls to observe his technique, I suppose, and studied under him before he ever went away to school. And then when he was old enough, he went to college, and he graduated from the University of Michigan. I don't know when, but he graduated from there. And then he came back to LaGro and stayed there for 10 years in fact. And then he went to Urbana. And that was where my father comes into the pictures, you see. Now I said there were 7 children by my grandmother, McVicar. And they were Charles and Samuel, and James and Joseph twins, and Robert and Sadie and Uriah, and they're all deceased.
For clarification now, Dr. Renner had 2 children, and then his wife died, and then he remarried, and he had 5 more. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. And Dr. M.E. Renner was by the first wife.
Yeah. Now there must have been, in other words, that would have been your father's stepbrother.
Yeah. No. Half-brother.
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 Was there quite a difference in age between M.E. Renner and Uriah was the youngest? Would there have been quite a bit of age difference there?
Well, I don't think I know the dates of those. Now, I might be able to find them.
Yeah. Well, we can find those and put those together.
But now Charles never had any children, and of course I was my father's only child. And James had no children, but Joseph was the father of Mrs. John Swan, Reba Renner Swan, Mrs. John Swan in LaGro, who still lives up at Hanging Rock.
And she would be a first cousin.
Yeah.
Of you.
Yes. Yes, she would. And then there was Robert, who had Jim and Joe Renner, and Helen, and Miriam Renner. And Sadie was the mother of Heaston McNown, and Jane McNown, Edwin McNown, and Bill McNown, who works or did work for, I don't know what they call Deluxe Coil now, but for that company, he's one of the salesmen for that company.
And they would also be first cousins of yours?
Yes, and then Uriah had Marjorie Renner Fristow and John Renner.
Now,
and that was the family.
Are most of these first cousins now still living?
Let's see. Well, Marjorie's coming up tomorrow. She's living. And Edwin is living, and Jane's living, but Heaston and Bill are living. But Jim's dead, Jim Renner. I think they're most all living, but John Renner and Jim.
When you were younger, of course, you were quite young when your grandfather died.
Yeah, I was real small when he died. And I don't remember him, but the one thing I remember most was where they lived and where he lay in that home when he was gone. And that all those big men, there were 8 of them, that I can just see them marching in and
for the
into the
funeral,
room.
Yeah.
Well, just to be in there alone for a while, with their father. I can see that.
Yeah.
And it's just as plain today as it was then.
What do you remember what he looked like? Did he have a beard?
Oh yes, he did. He looked like the men look today.
Yeah.
Only better.
Yeah. Sure.
He had a beard, and I have a picture upstairs of them all. And he was short, fat, stocky man, And they say that doesn't enter into your bill now, but I don't believe it.
Yeah. Well, how long did grandmother McVicar Renner, how long then did she live?
Well, she lived a long time after he was. She died. I don't know just when she died. Now, wait a minute. She's been gone 50 years.
50 years, so she would have died around 1924.
And he died she lived 25 years anyway after he was gone. Because he died in 1901, you see.
Then where did she maintain the family residence?
In LaGro.
In LaGro.
And she had a little farm up that finally the 24 highway took it all. They bought up that land. But she had a little farm up there, and every summer she had to be moved up to the farm, and every fall she was moved back to her home in LaGro.
Did she maintain close contact with the family?
Oh, my, yes.
Yeah.
Too
close, yeah. Were you responsible for taking care of her?
No, her daughters, Mrs. McNown, Sadie, took care of her.
Yeah.
But the boys were most faithful, always.
Were they? Yeah.
And when I was a girl, I just hated to go to LaGro, because we had to go so often,
Yeah. Of course, that was before the days of fast transportation. It was probably an all-day trip to LaGro and back.
Well, we went up on the Urban, you see. That was great. Then we you could get pretty good connections, you know.
Did your grandmother ever tell you any stories of her parents, or were her parents still living?
No, I don't recall that she ever did.
No folklore or how anything in the history?
I do remember that when she went to the farm, I'd go up there to visit her, and I'd be just fine until night come, and then I'd get homesick for my mother and father. And one time, she walked down the Wabash Railroad tracks with me because I was just in tears. And to a telephone, the only one that she knew anything about, I guess, in the countryside there, to call up my dad and tell him to please get my mother and come up and stay all night up there, or he'd have to come and get me and take me home on the 2. I was disturbing the peace. But I do remember that she walked almost a half a block. There was a spring, a wonderful spring that ran through that farm. And there was I suppose, an old milk house built over this. And she took all of her perishable foods, she carried them down there. Every time she had to have them up to the house and back again. That was her refrigerator.
Yeah, I'll be darned. What did she look like physically?
Well, she was a very fine-looking old lady. She had beautiful curly hair and not a streak of gray in it, as long as she lived.
Was she small, medium?
Yeah, she was small.
Small.
She was
stature.
small and slender, very wiry.
And, what would you have said her outstanding characteristic was?
Well, she was a wonderful Christian woman. And I think she probably did a great deal to... She had a great influence over me. I remember that distinctly. And of course, she thought card playing was the most horrible thing that ever was, you know. And one time, one of the neighbors came over and told her that their boys were down in the barn playing Pedro. And my grandmother said, "Oh my, they're doing worse than that." She says they're playing cards.
Oh, I think that's cute.
But she really was very faithful to her Methodist church in LaGro, and I think the Swans are too, that live up there still.
Did the husband, did Dr. Renner, leave her comfortable? I mean, was she...
Oh, yes,
Yeah, she was...
Yes, she was well taken care of till she died.
How about on your father's side of the family? Did you ever see any of his parents, which would be...
No, I'm telling you about his father.
Right.
No,
They were, of course, you would have been so small and young when...
We never saw any of our great-grandparents.
Right. Did you ever see any of the uncles or the aunts of either side of your grandparents?
No, I don't recall that we did. We saw some cousins who lived in Chicago. 3 maiden ladies when I knew them. And they were just loads of fun, and they just loved to come down. And sometimes they'd come and stay all summer with Grandmother Renner. And, one of them worked for Marshall Fields for years, and she lied so about her age that when she went to get her Social Security, she had to admit she'd been lying and that she was a lot older than she said she was. I think 10 years, maybe. But I know one time, you don't need to record it. One time my grandfather and grandmother took all these youngsters and went to Chicago to visit these cousins. And, really, her boys just tormented her nearly to death. They just had more fun than a circus. And because she was, I guess you'd call it gullible, you know. She was perfectly innocent and hadn't been around in the world very much. And they went up to Chicago, and on the billboards, there was a McVicar theater in Chicago, which they say was named after the McVicar family. And Charlie McVicar was a brother of these 3 girls. And he was quite influential in Chicago history. And they said that this McVicar Theater was named after him. But on the billboard was the whole damn family at McVicar's. And my father, he said, they all told their mother, said, see, they got it up on the billboard that we're coming to visit the McVicars.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Is there anything else that you can think of your grandparents?
Well, I can't think any more about my side of the family, I guess.
Well, do you want to move on to
yes, I'd
your
like to
career in Wabash or
I'd like to
whatever's next?
Move on to well, I'd like to talk about Ray Launder, whom I married on June 1st, 1916, and we lived together almost 51 years. And our children were James Mark Launder and Lois Marjorie's Launder Jones and Linda Lou Launder Bryant. And we met in high school, but he was taking he'd graduated and he was back doing some other work. When I went into high school, he was 5 years older than I. And that's where I met him. And we went together from 1914 to 1916, which would be
2 years at least.
Well, we went together longer than that. 5 years, I know, before we were married. And after I graduated from high school in 1914, I worked in the Renner shoe store for 2 years before I was married. But the Launder name was a prominent name too in Wabash. And the Launder family were in the harness business. And Father Launder was recognized as a very wonderful workman on making fancy harnesses.
That would have been Ray's father.
Ray's father, yeah. And in Mary Jane Mariner married John Courtney Launder on December 31st, 1863. And to this union were born Leuna and Raymond Launder. Both the father and the sister died in the same year. They weren't married too long. They died. He died very young, Court. We called him Court Launder. And on March 25th, 1874, Mary Jane Launder married Sanford Honeywell. And to this union, Mark Honeywell, that made. And when they were married, this is one of the stories. Ray's father was 6 years old when they were married. And he stood and held a hold of his mother's hand while she was getting married to Mr. Honeywell, and just cried and cried and cried and cried. Can you imagine that?
That was married to Mark's father, the Sanford Honeywell.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was a lot older than she.
Considerably.
Oh my, yes, he was 55 years old, I think, at that time.
And how old would she have been?
Well, she would be just young. Probably I imagine that she was married about 7 years when her husband died, you see.
So, under 30 probably.
Well, yes, she no doubt was under 30, and I bet she was very attractive. I imagine she was. And
did you ever meet either of those, Sanford Honeywell or?
Well, of course, I knew Grandmother Honeywell well.
Yes.
I was married into the family when she was
still alive.
Oh, yes, she lives. Oh, I expect she lived 15 years after I was in the family. so I knew her well.
And that
but-
would have been Ray's mother then?
No.
Grandmother?
Ray's mother. I didn't tell you about Ray's family.
Well, we'll
did
get
I?
on to her. I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Well, I want to tell you about Mr. Honeywell. He was a widower, too. And he'd come to Wabash County from a county in Pennsylvania in 1819. And his mother was a widow, and her name was Judith Honeywell, and she moved with Sanford Honeywell and another son to Fayette County, Indiana. And then he finally arrived in Wabash County in 1843, and he engaged in the business as a millwright. And he invented and erected the first tile mill in this county. Now, this is all out of a history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in 1859, he devoted his time to farming and making tile for his own use. And in 1870, he sold his farm and engaged in the manufacture of cider, erecting for his purpose a steam mill with a capacity of from 450 gallons a day. And when I married into this family, they were making cider. Ray's father and Ray both were working out there and ran the cider mill, but they also had started some orchards out where the Honeywell Gardens are now.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, they weren't producing, so you had to be doing something else, you know. But I can remember that Ray would get up when they'd be making cider. They had certain days they made it on.
Mm-hmm.
And when they'd be making it, when he'd go to work, there'd be lines from the mill clear down across Cass Street here, which was just a dirt road, as I recall. People waiting to have their apples made into cider.
Well, let's end this as part one. I'll turn the tape over. Well, we got as far as the people with the cider and waiting,
Yeah.
coming down Cass Street. And, go ahead and tell me what you're talking about the family.
Well,
We were talking about Ray's family. How did you...
Ray's mother, he was left motherless when he was 4 years old.
Mhm.
And he was first with one grandmother and then with another. His grandmother, Fullheart, was, he loved living with her. And, but when he started to school in Marion, Indiana, that's where she lived. And then when he came over here, when he was, about 10 years old, I think, he came over here and lived then with Grandmother Honeywell and his father all the rest of that time.
Mhm.
And, of course, he loved the old mill place. Always did. And Mark does, too.
For clarification on the tape,
Yeah.
tell me where the mill was.
The mill was known as a Honeywell mill.
Uh-huh.
I think Mr. Honeywell probably bought that property after they were married and established it there. And then later, they moved to Florida. I'm not sure that they moved there, but they had two homes. They had a home in Florida and a home up here on North Cass Street, just about 3 blocks from Stead, north. That's the Honeywell mill.
Mhm.
And most people think that's where our orchards were, you know, but they weren't.
Where were the orchards?
Well, they're out on that, and I don't know what road that is.
That's right there where the
The
country...
where you turn at
Right.
Chippewa
Right.
School
Uh-huh.
and go west to Honeywell, which is now the Honeywell Gardens.
Uh-huh. That's where the orchards were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, did Ray go to from his 10th year, 10 years old? He went to the Wabash public schools.
Yeah, he went to Miami School.
Uh-huh.
And I went there all my life to the Miami and then to high school down on Hill Street to that building.
Well, Ray, of course, being older, you probably weren't in school at the same time.
No,
even.
we never were in school at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Except when he came back to
Yes.
do some postgraduate work.
Postgraduate at
At
the high school. Yeah.
And that would have been the old high school down on
Yes.
Hill Street.
Yes.
Yeah. And he was living with Grandmother Honeywell then at that
And
time?
his father.
And his father.
Mm.
And
Yes, his father lived with his mother. They lived together all of his life.
Yeah. But
Not,
he never remarried.
no, he
No.
never, and he was only 27 years old when he lost his wife. And he built for her this little house that you run into as you come up.
Is that Fisher Street?
Mm-mm.
That's the first street west of Cass Street.
Yeah, yes, right over here. What is it?
Isn't that Fisher and Ferry?
Mm-mm.
Well, we were
He built
talking about
that small sort of square house there, and that's where he built that himself.
Yeah, now that would
He
be at
did
the corner of
Beautiful carpentry work and all kinds of furniture and things, you know.
that would be as you come up Carroll Street.
Yes, you
right?
almost run into it
And
when you come
yeah,
up Carroll
and that'd
Street.
be right behind where Thacker's used to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, the house is there, and I think it's just
Yeah.
been re-sided, as a matter of fact.
Has it?
Yes.
Well, they've added something too, I think. Maybe a porch or a little sun porch or something.
So that's where your husband Ray Launder grew up with his father.
yes, and he might have been born in that house. I'm not sure about that.
And, well, I'll be damned.
But I have a feeling that he was.
Then Mr. Launder or Ray Launder and Mr. Honeywell, Sanford Honeywell would be what relation?
Well, he wasn't really, only by law. He was a step-grandfather, I suppose you'd call him.
And then Mark Honeywell would be...
But now he was here in Wabash County long enough. He and Mark Jones, that was Ruth Jones's grandfather, were old cronies. And they made a pact that if they ever had, you see, Mark was the only child he ever had. And he was an old man then. Well, he wasn't really, excuse me for saying that. But he was much older than most men are when they start their families.
Mm-hmm.
They made a pact that if they ever had a son, they would name them after each other. So when Mr. Honeywell was born, he was named Mark. And when Mr. Jones's son was born, he called him Sanford Jones, and he was the father of Ruth Jones and Grace Crumine and Mrs. E.D. Pearson.
Well, I'll be damned. So that's really how Mark Honeywell got his name then. Was
Yeah.
The pact that Sanford had made with his
Yes.
Mr. Jones. Well, I'll be damned. Of course, there would have been quite a difference in age between Mark Honeywell and Ray Launder, so...
Horace Launder, Ray's father, there was 10 years difference.
10 years difference, and Mark being the older?
No, Mark was the younger, you see.
Was the younger, yes.
Ray's father was the one that stood there at the wedding, you know.
Oh, yes, right.
And cried.
Yes.
But of course, he died, Mr. Honeywell died when the year I was born. So of course, he died in Florida and was buried in Florida. And of course, Mark was young, and he went to Stetson University, which was, I suppose, just a small school down in Florida. They lived in DeLand. That's where they had orchards. And Mark was he sold fruit and shipped it, you know. That was his first venture in business.
Well, did Sanford have money? Sanford Honeywell have money?
Well, I suppose in those days he was considered to have had.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't consider it anything now at all. That's why I was telling you about my grandfather. In those days, an inheritance of $2,000 was really something.
Certainly. They would.
And especially with so many children.
Yeah, and each one of them get
Yeah.
$2,000.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, when did you first meet Mark Honeywell then?
Well,
After you started going with Ray?
Yeah, after I started, but just shortly before we were married, I met them. But my mother and father knew them when they were courting each other, and when Mark and Olive Honeywell were courting. They used to go out to Spikerville, and there was some kind of a building out there they danced in. And young couples from Wabash and from all in Wabash County surrounding went there to dance. And that's where my father and mother met them.
So your parents knew them?
They knew them when they were young, but not intimately at all. But I've heard my mother's tell, after I got into the family, that they had known them.
Did your first meeting with Mr. Honeywell was where? With Mark Honeywell?
Well, I think the first meeting with him was at the old gym. And I was real young. I don't suppose I was more than 14. And his nephew took me to my first dance, Kenneth Vigas. Mm-hmm. And I remember that when we came in, all the older folks applauded. And I didn't know that it was for us, until later. I realized that they were sort of initiating me into the social life of Wabash. Yeah. Probably that's about it. Now that's how I met Mr. Honeywell. But after we were married, of course, we almost every Sunday went out to Grandmother Honeywell's sometime during the day.
Yeah. Now, where was she living then after you were married?
Well, she lived just right there at the mill.
Right at the mill?
She always lived at the mill.
Always lived at the mill?
Always, except when she lived in... Well, the old Mariner home, she was a Mariner. Mm-hmm. The old Mariner home was right over there where Mrs. Honeywell built their beautiful home.
On North Wabash Street?
Yeah, they owned all that land in there.
Uh-huh. What was your reaction to meeting Mark Honeywell the first time then?
Oh, well, I didn't think. Then he was just a common citizen.
He had the plumbing business in or something in that name?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah. But he never liked to be known as having a plumbing business.
Even when he was in it?
Even when he was in it, I don't think. No, I don't think when he was in it that he minded. No. But I think as he grew in importance, Now, whether he thought it was important or not, I don't know. Sometimes I think that people make people important. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think he would have liked always to have kept his status in Wabash as it was. They had a wonderful crowd of young people at that time. And I admired everybody in that crowd, and I could name them to you. And they had this wonderful crowd that they were in. But as he grew in the business world, that crowd fell away. Mm-hmm. And I think that hurt. I really do.
Did you know Olive Lutz then? Did you know her well?
Yeah, oh, she was a marvelous person.
She would have been older than you also.
Oh, yes.
Considerably older.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you remember her family?
Yes, I knew her. I never knew her father, but I knew her mother well. She was a fine old lady, and they lived right there where the bank is now,
That was such a pretty house. I'll bet in its day, it was really beautiful down there. Yeah.
And I remember when the first year, the summer I was married, we were entertained out at Grandmother Honeywell's with Mark and Olive. And Grandmother Honeywell took they had an automobile then. It was a little old Maxwell, I think, that Mark had given him. It was his first car. Ray always regretted he didn't keep that car. He did his courting in that car.
In Mark's car?
Well, it was his then,
Yeah.
but yes, it was Mark's, the first one Mark had.
Yeah.
Of course, he had a much nicer one after that. And she took me. She wanted me to see the King's beautiful home on Falls Avenue, which is the Eddingfield Mortuary now. And it was beautiful. It was just like in pictures, you know. And the beautiful old furniture and all upholstered in the most beautiful, colorful velvet you ever saw in your life. And Mrs. King was a dear, sweet old lady.
Did Mr. King also have a log cabin out south of town? Is that the story, that he had built that also?
I don't know a thing about Mr. King. They were widows, those women, when I knew.
Were they when you?
Yeah, at that time, they were both widowed.
I've been in the family part of the house. I don't know if you've ever been back in the office and the other parts of the house, and it is beautiful. You can tell the day, and I'm sure that it hasn't changed much.
Now, what house are you doing?
The King house that you're talking about, which is now Eddingfield's. Yeah, and it is beautiful back in there.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
sure that what you described was.
It was just really, it was, for Wabash, it was palatial. That really was.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that the Lutz home was like that.
No.
But it was very comfortable, and Mr. Lutz was considered to be a wealthy man. And when Olive and Mark were married, he gave them that home on Main Street. It's next to it's right west of Carroll Street.
Carroll.
East.
We got
it's
it
right
this time.
East of Carroll
Right.
Street. It's the third house. And right beside her was her sister's home, Mrs. Vigas. And although Mark and Olive never had a family of their own, those Vigas children, especially Esther, was reared almost as their own daughter.
That would have been their niece then.
Yes, it was the niece.
Well, how long did it take Mr. Ray Launder, how long did it take him to decide that he's going to marry Mabel Renner?
Well, he decided that when I graduated from high school. And strange as it may seem, he went to my father and mother. Unbeknownst to me, I was to a party that night. And he told him his intentions, and that he asked him if he could marry me, and so on. Which I doubt if that ever happens anymore. You should know. I don't
think so. I don't think it happens anymore.
And they said, well, they would have no objections, but I was too young. So we waited 2 years after that.
Yeah, and those were the 2 years you spent working in the store then?
Yes,
from
those
high
were
school.
2 years I spent working in the store.
And what was Ray doing in these 2 years?
Well, when he did several things. When he was going, he always worked. From the time he was a young boy, he worked. If not for his father, for somebody else. And he worked for a Mr. Kurtner here in Wabash, who was supposed to have more money than anyone else. And Dr. Pearson lives in the old Kurtner home. It was Eagles' home, the Eagles. And Mr. Kurtner had married their daughter. Well, they had to have a chauffeur, and they had a very lovely car for those days, And Ray drove for them. He chauffeured for them for off and on while he was in high school. Then you didn't have to have a driver's license, And then when he got out of high school, he went to work for Mr. Honeywell. For the Honeywell Specialties Company, which was on the side hill, just down on the west side from the...
At the alley there.
Yeah, at the alley.
Right.
The first place they ever had.
Right.
And then from then on, he worked off and on for Mr. Honeywell, almost in every location they had. And
What was his first job then with Mr. Honeywell?
well, working in the experimental department. Many times Mark would call him and ask him about things and what his opinion was about things, you know. And he had if they had a job that was a tedious one, they always gave it to him because he had the patience of Job.
But he really had no formal training as an engineer, though, did he?
No, but he was just gifted that way, you know. I think that you have to have an inclination toward that kind of work, or you couldn't do it.
He would work for Mr. Honeywell for a while, and then he would drift off and do something else.
When he first started, he worked for him. And then when we were married, he and his father, he'd gone in with his father out there, and they planted these orchards and everything. And I think they were doing a little farming on the side, maybe, and I know they raised pigs right here in the city. Mm-hmm. And chickens. We tore down the old chicken house not too long ago. Now you can't do any of those things.
No, that's true. Did Ray ever seem to be concerned about whether he would have a job or wouldn't have a job? Never worry about it?
No, he didn't. And he went through the Depression. He was working for... How he come to go back to Honeywell's was... Well, he needed the money, was the principal reason.
Yeah. That's usually
and
motivation.
He loved the work. He really didn't... His heart was never in this agricultural, horticultural business at all. Mm-hmm. I know that, and he knew it too. So Mark had a car that needed a new top, and he had Ray come down and put a new top on that car. And Mr. Shivers was the chief engineer, and he said to Mr. Honeywell, he said, "What in the world? Why in the world don't you have this man down here?" Mm-hmm. He said, "We need him." Mm-hmm. And that's how he come to go back.
That's why, and that would have been when, in the 30s sometime?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Wait a minute. Yeah, it might have been right in the early 30s. Mm-hmm. It must have been about in 25. My father died, so he was working in Honeywell's then. So no, it must have been in the early 20s that he went back there.
Did he spend the rest of his career with Honeywell?
Well, as far as that type of work was concerned, his father became ill, and the orchards were at their prime, and you couldn't get anybody to do anything. Labor was hard to get, and so he quit in 1940, I think it was, and he went back out there and took charge of the things. But his heart was never really in it, you know.
He never went back to Honeywell then after 1940? No,
he never went back.
Yeah. Was his relationship with Mark, did they get along well?
Yes.
They complemented each other, one with the technical ability and the other with the whatever other ability they needed?
Well, I think Mark had technical ability too. Yeah. Indeed, I do. Uh-huh. He was he was an unusual man because he had all the abilities that it takes to be successful in business.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Honeywell did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did Ray wish that he'd ever taken another turn and done something else in his life, do you think? Or was he satisfied to have worked for Mr. Honeywell?
If he did, I didn't know it. I always felt he was very satisfied with our life. And, but now, since I listen to everything on TV and do so much reading, I sometimes wonder if we didn't miss a lot. People were more satisfied then than they are now. Mm-hmm. Everybody is anyone satisfied anymore?
Doesn't seem to be, do they? So I was running here and running there.
And I don't think young people begin to have the fun we had when we were kids. And going to school. I love going to school.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that it's pretty obvious that the two of you had an extremely satisfying life and
Well, we
happy
did.
life. And,
We did. And of course, Ray, he was, one time a friend was here visiting, and he said, I just wonder if you know just what a wonderful man you're married to. And I said, yes, I do. And it was a man, too, so that was quite a compliment.
yeah. Did Ray ever worry about money?
No.
Never affected him one way or the other? Would you say he was conservative?
Very. He didn't believe you should have anything unless you paid for it right now.
Yeah. Well, that's good attitude, you know.
Well, I think myself it is.
Yeah, it's a good attitude. I'm sure that many of these old values we've lost someplace.
I know it.
And
I wonder if they'll ever be recaptured.
Well, I doubt if we'll ever see it in our lifetime. Did you socialize then with the Honeywells at all?
No, they were a lot older than we were. We, just as we were over at their house and we were up the lake, and as a family we saw them and were with them. And when Mr. Honeywell bought the place out there that the lodge is on, we had a little dog, and they had a little dog. They had a Spitz, and we had just a common little old fox terrier. But Ray and his father had planted the orchards bought that land out there and planted the orchards. They had, they had 40 acres of orchard out there. Mm-hmm. And in those days, and those trees eventually got too big and too old. Now, if you were starting an orchard, you'd have the miniature fruit trees that you can almost stand on the ground and pick the fruit off and spray and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But in their day, it was much more difficult, you know. And so Mark would come out there to the orchard, and the dogs would play and have a great time. And Mark and Olive on Sundays, we were together very much on Sundays. And he finally had Ray's father buy that land adjoining over on what road is that?
115, isn't it? The road that goes north?
It was called the Garner Road, for one thing. I do know that. And it was just back of the road north of that section in there, you know. And then's when he decided to build. Now, the plain dealer had an article in the paper that he remodeled that lodge, but he never did. All that lumber was shipped in from Alabama or Mississippi or southern states, and it was worm-eaten wood. It's all built out of worm-eaten wood. That was the thing in those days. Yeah. And so he thought he liked that, so that's what he did. And he built that place to really sort of live out there when he wanted to, you know. Yeah. But I don't think they ever wanted to.
Yeah. Did Mrs. Honeywell, the first Mrs. Honeywell, her name was Lutz, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Aunt Ollie, we called her.
Aunt Ollie? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did she ever seem to regret that they never had any children? Your family was starting to grow and come along, and
well, one time she and I went to a party out at the old country club in Desi Hour. I took her as my guest. It was a tourist guest day, and I took her as my guest. And when we came home together, I went in over there at Honeywell's. I went in over there with her, and I told her that I was expecting Linda. That was our youngest daughter. And she said, well, Mabel, I guess you're having to have my babies. Mm-hmm. And that's the only time anything was ever said.
I'll be darned. probably had some longing there to have children of some kind.
I think it's too bad they didn't.
Yeah. Well, let me finish part 2 here, and I'll slip.
I belong to several clubs, card clubs, and we organized a 1914 club. The year we graduated from high school with 14 girls in it that still meet every year. They have since then.
And
Many of them have died.
How many are left in the 14 club?
Oh, let me see. I think there's 7 or 8 left. But in my sorority, that was organized when I was in high school and just really wasn't a sorority. It was then, but it would be considered so now. Those girls, if we can get 5 to a meeting.
You're doing pretty good.
But you know, both of those clubs, the girls, they were girls then, married and went to all parts of the world. And but they managed to get back together once a year. See?
What did, speaking of old friends and acquaintances, what did Olive Lutz Honeywell look like? What was...
Well, she was short, and she was dark, and she looked very much like the picture in the... Oh, not exactly, because sometimes I think it's awfully hard for a portrait to catch just everything. It's hard more so than a photograph, I think. I don't know why that is, but it seems like the personality isn't there. You know what I mean? Yeah. She was very ordinary, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. She was a friend of everyone she met. That's the type of woman she was. And she could be the life of the party. She was lots of fun. She was very outspoken, but she was very popular. And she did a lot of wonderful things. Very unbeknown to anyone else, you know.
Did money have any effect on her, do you think?
Well, you know, truthfully, I think she didn't like it too much. I think she was happier when they weren't so successful.
Did she die relatively young?
Well,
she must have died before she was 60. Or...
Married in 1896. She died in 19... Well, she didn't die. She died sometime in...
Would she have been in her 60s, do you think?
She died about 1938.
38. And she would have been married...
And she was married born, I suppose, 1896 or 1895. Can you figure that?
Yeah, she must have been late 50s or early 60s then when she died.
I think she was in her early 60s, probably.
What did she die? What was the cause of it?
Well, I don't think they ever knew. They were building a house, a shelter, but I think it was really a house over on an island that he had purchased in over close to Miami.
Yeah.
And she had gone over there, and you couldn't get to this island except by boat or by plane. And I think they usually took a plane. And they'd gone over there, and the windows had been put in. And the window frames had been put in. And she was sitting in one of those window frames, and it gave way, and she fell out of the window onto the ground. And I can just see her get up and brush herself off and say, didn't amount to anything. But we've always felt that she had something happen at that time that was instrumental to her death. Because a month later, she wasn't well after that. She felt miserable. and they had made arrangements for her to go into a clinic and have a thorough examination. And the morning that the night before, she had a hard time getting to sleep, Mark said, and he had been up with her a good bit of the night. And finally she went off to sleep, and he got up and went over to the island. He did look in on her before he left, and he said she looked like she was sleeping, but he thinks now that she was gone then. Just
that fast.
That fast. So evidently she had. It was a nice way to go.
Yeah, that's true. Did you remember then when Mr. Honeywell started courting his second wife?
You know.
Well, how did, as you remember it, how did Mrs. Nixon, we'll call her Eugenia, we'll call her Mrs. Nixon, until she marries Mr. Honeywell for identification purposes here. How did they happen to...
Well, they were friends. She was a friend of Olive and Mark's.
Yeah.
And Mr. Nixon and she were friends of the Honeywells.
Yeah.
And so it was not unusual that she would be over there.
Yeah.
And but she didn't know people, you know.
Yes.
And I did. So Mark asked me if I would please look after things. And I sat the morning that Olive was buried and her service was preached by Nevin Shaw from our church. I sat on the stair steps, concealed on the stair steps, that is, partially concealed, and noted everyone that came to the funeral. And I knew, strange to say, I knew everybody that came.
Every single person?
Every single person. The ones that I didn't know were already there and were guests in the home. I knew all the Wabash people. And that's what he wanted. Because I think he felt he'd lost contact with them, you see. And so I kept a record for him of all of those people. Now I don't know anyone in Wabash. That's the truth.
This was at the home was where they had the funeral?
Yes, at the home.
Yeah. On North Wabash?
On where Bob Magley lives now, yes, in North Wabash.
Well, Mrs. Honeywell, second Mrs. Honeywell, would have been about your age when
she was my age.
Your age.
I was over there for lunch with her before I went to Florida, or for Trey's supper one night. And, but she'd been miserable all summer, and I felt so sorry for her.
Did the two of you get along well?
Oh, yes.
Did you?
I admired her greatly. She was a charming person, really.
Yes.
And we talked, and I told her how I'd been affected by so many of my good friends in Wabash passing away. And how long that they'd been friends of mine, you know. And she said, well, Mabel, I never had a close friend like that. She said that when I was growing up, I was so busy learning to play the piano and practicing, I never had time to make any friends. Now, I think she would have made friends had she been allowed maybe to be a child.
Yeah. Would you have thought that you knew her mother also?
Yes.
Mrs. Hubbard, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And would you have said that that Mrs. Hubbard was the one that was ambitious for her, or?
Well, I'm sure in the beginning she was the one that was ambitious for her, yes. I'm certain of that. I think she was a gifted child. I think she was a gifted child. And I think that she, no doubt, as she began to progress and be a really fine musician, that she was ambitious for herself. I would think so. I would hope so.
What did she look like when she was younger, when she was a young girl coming in here as Mr. Nixon's wife?
Well, you know, I don't think she changed very much. To me, that's strange. She always seemed to be just she wasn't until the last year. And I noticed that she was failing then.
She was, even in her later years, was still attractive looking woman.
She was very attractive, I thought.
Yeah, she was a very attractive woman in her later years.
I thought.
I
think they didn't, she wasn't married. I don't think they were married until, it must have been 5 years anyway after I passed away.
Did Ray get along with...
She died in 35, I know now.
35.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were married in 42 or 43. It was during the war. I think I have the date someplace. I think it was 1943. Did Ray get along with the second Mrs. Honeywell then as well as he did the first?
Why, we get along with everybody.
Mm-hmm. So they got along famously.
And I, for one, think it was a good marriage. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
They were suited, and they weren't suited.
Yeah.
But she complimented him,
Yeah.
and he knew it. And as Mamie Pettiford said, it was just something that it just kept growing until there wasn't anything else for them to do but to be married.
Mm-hmm. So the four of you got along just as well as the four of you had gotten along before?
Oh, yes.
First with Olive
Yes,
Boots
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Of course, we didn't see nearly as much of Mark after he became so successful because he was always too busy, We thought, that was what we thought. Now what he thought, I wouldn't know,
Well, did you name Mark, your Mark?
Yes, our Mark was named after Mark Honeywell. And I have a letter that he wrote when Mark was born.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a compliment to the man and to the relationship that you had.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see, did Mr. Honeywell have any bad habits? I think someone in the family told me he never smoked, to his knowledge. Did he smoke?
Yeah.
He smoked?
Yes, but Mark was a favorite in his family.
Mm-hmm.
He was his mother's favorite. He was Ray's father's favorite. He was Ray's favorite when I went into the family.
Uh-huh.
Now, I don't think any of them knew that, or realized it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was true. So when I was going into the family and was going to have a closer relationship with the family, Ray said to me, "Now don't tell grandmother that Mark smokes," because that was a cardinal sin.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I would have liked to. But anyway, one time, Ray and I, when he was courting me, and I had a beautiful linen dress that I had just gotten, and we were driving. It had a horse and a phaeton, and I don't know where we got it. It must have belonged to them. And there was no water place right over here on the corner. And we were out driving. And Ray drove up there and watered the horse. Now, I don't know why he did that. And he was smoking a cigar, of all things.
Uh-huh.
My father smoked cigars. So I didn't think so much about it at the time. But here came his father and his grandmother down Cass Street in the old Maxwell.
Uh-huh.
And he saw his grandmother, and he was just panicky. He took that cigar out of his mouth, and he stuffed it down between us, and burnt a hole in my new dress.
I bet you had a hard time explaining that when you got home.
No, not at my house, I didn't.
Yeah.
And they never, of course, his grandmother never knew it,
Yeah.
Oh, if anybody had any bad habits, why, they were all kept secret. They were secret bad habits, as far as the family was concerned, But I don't think Mark did.
Yeah.
I don't know that he ever did.
Yeah.
Outside of smoking and probably drinking.
Yeah.
I don't know that he ever drank excessively. even.
Well, how about your family now and raising the kids? Was that easy, or as you look back now, or
Well, I think it was a lot easier than it is now.
were the kids hard to raise? Were
No.
Mark and the girls hard to raise?
No. Mark really got a lot of his education right out there with his father at the mill. And then he graduated from high school in 1934, and he stayed at home that year and worked with his grandfather with the fruit. They trucked fruit to cities all around Wabash that winter. And the next fall he entered Purdue University. That was in 1936, and graduated in 1940. And then he went to Toledo and worked for the electric auto light through the war and for 10 years or so before he ever came back to Wabash. I think Wabash still means a lot to Mark. But
were Lois and Linda hard to raise?
well, no, they weren't. Then Lois was maybe easier than Linda, because Lois, you set down rules for Lois and she obeyed them. Now she says now she thought she had to. She often says, I wish I'd have been born before Linda was. She could have taught me so much.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
Our children were far apart.
Yeah. How many years apart?
Well, Mark was 9.5 years older than Lois, and Lois was 8 years older than Linda. So we had a young child. We had a baby almost all of our married life, you know.
Was Ray much help in raising the children?
Oh, yes. He was much help any place.
Was he?
Wherever he was needed, he was there.
Yeah. He was a good father then.
He was a good father, yeah. I don't know what my children think, but he was a good father.
Yeah. Did you, would you say that you had a happy marriage, Ray?
Well, I thought we did.
Yeah.
I certainly thought we did. Yeah. We couldn't do much. We were always, as I said, always had a baby to look after.
Had a baby at home, right.
And Mother was, the girls often say, my mother, my father died shortly after I was married, so my mother and Ray and I always lived together. And she was a built-in babysitter.
Was the family unit compatible with Grandma and mother and child?
Yes.
Yeah, and Ray, he got along, and
it was very. Yeah. Yes, I think due to the fact of Ray that he was a very understanding man and very kind, and everything. I never thought of us as anything else but compatible here.
I think that's wonderful. I think sometimes that this is what grandchildren miss now. Sometimes they miss the close contact with the grandparents.
Well, I think that
Mr. Launder, did he enjoy the grandchildren also?
Yeah,
did
sure.
He enjoy the grandchildren?
He enjoyed Mark.
Yeah.
You know. Yes. Immensely. Yeah. And he did the girls too.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful.
Mark Honeywell used to entertain our kids with sleight of hand performances.
Did he?
He was sort of a magician, you know, an amateur one. Yeah. He was an amateur, a lot of things. Yeah. An amateur musician.
Was he? Pretty good at it.
Yeah, he fiddled.
Yeah. Did you ever visit them in Florida?
No.
Never visited?
No, I never visited.
How about the house at Wawasee? Did you ever go there?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Was that pretty nice?
Oh, it was lovely. Yeah. It was before its time, is that what I want to say?
Sure.
It was modern in every respect, and it was just like a home. Mm-hmm. But you asked me about Mrs. Honeywell, if she enjoyed
this
their
lifestyle, I guess we call it.
She came back one summer when we were up there, and she says, Mabel, I just don't like it up here. She said, you know what? I can't eat. My friends have, this place is so changed. My friends are, they've either died or they're gone, moved away. I can't even get a table of bridge.
Mm-hmm. That would be a handicap.
Well, I know what she means now.
Sure.
Because the same thing has happened to me right here.
Tell me a little bit about working for your dad down at the shoe store.
Oh, I sold shoes, and it was fun. Because I like people too, and of course he did. And my uncle Uriah Renner, who was his partner there, worked for the Marion Rubber Company for years. Was a salesman out of Wabash for the Marion Rubber Company.
Was it unusual for a girl to be working in the retail store in those days, or not?
Well, I think so. You see, they had no ready to wear in those days. Everything was bulk goods, you know, and they had to have sales ladies. Yes, I think that people that worked, I think they probably worked there. Not many people went away to school.
Even getting a high school education in those days was quite a thing.
Was it?
Yes.
Well, I didn't know that.
I would say even completing high school in those days would be quite an accomplishment back when you went to school. Did you enjoy the store?
I enjoyed anything.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed living. And I still do. That is, I'm still thankful for every year I'm given.
Where did you live in those days? You lived fairly close to town, I think you told me one time, and as most people walked back and forth.
Well, when we first came to Wabash, we lived up there on Walnut and Elm. Is it Elm? Yeah. And then my mother's sister and her husband, Joe Sullivan, that is another name that would be familiar if people were living that knew him. He worked for the Wabash. He started as a messenger boy, and he wound up in Detroit as a supervisor of freight. And he lived on Maple Street, just 2 blocks south of us. So we moved down in their house. And then we moved down when my grandmother Renner once lived in Wabash, right there in the old brick house. It's an apartment house now, back on Hill Street, back of the Wabash depot there,
Hill
you know.
and Huntington. Yeah.
Hill and Huntington.
Right. Was that an apartment house in those days?
No, it was a lovely big home.
Single dwelling?
Oh, that was a lovely home. When we lived there, then Tom Butler, who was a music store dealer here in Wabash, moved in there, and it was a lovely home, and they were friends of my father and mother, and they had big times. People got together then and did things in their homes, not out to a club or the country club or something like that, because there was no such thing, you see. I think at one time that house on where Walter Hipskin holds forth was called the Indiana Club. And really that was the first club I ever heard tell of in Wabash. I suppose that maybe the Elks Club was here then.
Well, the Elks Club has been here since 1898, I think, or 1896 or something.
Well, then the Elks Club was here, and probably some of the others, but of course I didn't know.
No.
But this Indiana Club was sort of exclusive, you know. My father belonged to it, and you could go there and be entertained, you know, and to have meals served, much like you would.
Well, just like any Elks
like
Club or
a
anything
country
else.
club, yeah.
Country club, And how long have you lived in this house here at the corner of Cass and Stitt?
Let's see, 40. We've lived here, it'll be 47 years
Yes.
this fall.
And what was the background on this house? Who owned the house?
Well, the background on it is Will Albert owned this. He built this home for his bride, and I would say that he probably built it in the early 80s. Wait a minute. Yeah. No. The early 1900s. He probably built it. And he built it for his bride. And Philip Albert, and his children were Philip Albert and Elizabeth Albert McGee. She's come back to Wabash to live after living away from here for a long time. And his wife died when those children were just real young. So this house must be 80 years old anywhere, maybe older than that.
Did you like the location close to the orchard, or what was the reason you
Well,
purchased?
I always loved this house.
Uh-huh.
When I was a young girl, going over here to Albert's.
It used to be right across the catty corner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I always liked this house, and I never, ever dreamed that it would be mine someday, you know.
What's the...
Then there were big trees all around here.
Uh-huh.
Now the power company and the gas company have
Taken
fiddled
everything.
around till they've ruined all that.
What is the history of the little house on the corner?
Well, somebody says that was a toll house. But strange to say, I never heard that until just recently. You hear a lot of things that you wonder about. The Albert family, Jacob Albert and his brothers and sisters, Mrs. Latcham was an Albert. And
Mrs. Paul Latcham that just died here?
no, her mother-in-law and father-in-law. Her mother-in-law was an Albert. She married Mr. Latcham. Their mother and father lived north here in that old house with the tree going up to the porch. And they had a big family. 4 or 5 boys and Mrs. Latcham. And so when the children got married, they thought they had to be close to the old folks so they could help them and take care of them, be sure they got along all right. So they built this little house on the corner, and almost every one of them went to housekeeping there. Even Mrs. Burke, Alice Burke, Dr. Burke's wife was an Albert. And Carl Albert was born in that house over there.
Very interesting.
And Madeline Albert said she was born there, but I can't believe she was because her folks lived there by our folks up there for a long time. Still do.
Excuse me, I'll end part 3 here, and we're going to... Last time when we were here, that was Mr. Launder, when Ray Launder, when someone died, that he was so overcome with grief that he took to his bed. Who was that? What's the story there? It always makes interesting family history.
On his mother's side of the family. I told you he lived with his mother's people.
Yes.
After his mother died. And he had this little sister, Laguna, who was 6 years old. And just 6 months after his mother died, this little sister died. And he mourned terribly for her. And I noticed that when people passed away that he was very close to or very fond of. It bothered Ray. It always did. He didn't like to go to a funeral. I know that. But he went often. But his mother's sister married Tom Barney in Marion. Esther Fullhart married Tom Barney in Marion. And he became mayor of Marion. He was mayor for 2 or 3 terms. It was he that built the sewage plant in Marion. And we were very close to them. And when Mr. Barney died, Ray and I started over there. And we must have gone to get gas and then went around on Sinclair Street, just near the Methodist church there, and he just slumped over in the car. He couldn't go. He went, that's the one he went. He just couldn't.
These close associates and friends and relatives really affected him. And,
Yes.
He must have been a very sensitive man.
Oh, I think he was, extremely so.
Yes. Well, that's a nice attribute. That's nice to have, believe me. And was Mr. Launder sick long before he died?
Well, he was failing for about 5 years. About 5 years before he died, he came home one day with all of the necessary equipment to run a house. He hadn't been really running a business for some time. And I really took care of the house. I had a little bit of training, but not much. And he turned the books over to me and he said, "Now, you can take care of everything from now on." And he had absolutely trust. He never questioned one thing that was done. And I always consulted him about everything because I valued his opinion very much. And but now, as I said, he was 5 years older than me. Now, when I began to get to those years, I began to understand more fully how he had felt. And, you know, I wish, if I could have a wish, I think it would be that younger people could understand older people better. And maybe I wish that older people could understand younger people better. I just wish that we could make them understand what might happen to them and how those years are.
Do you think any differently than you did when you were young? Or much differently?
No, I don't think I do. About important things, I don't think I do. I think I've adjusted pretty well to everything until this year. And this year has about finished me off. All of it. Everywhere.
Are your values the same as they were when you were 20?
Yes, my values are the same.
Do you think that the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren's values will be the same as grandma's, maybe?
Well, I would hope so, but I don't know.
Yeah. I think in many cases they are. I think that...
Lois is so very much like me. And yet, I was never quiet. I'm a noisy person. But she is very conservative and very much like her father. But still, she's so much like me that it startles me sometimes.
I think that
she's growing that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that it is beginning to happen now that I can see, you see.
I think that you can see it in your own children and as you get older. Has the church, your church affiliation, been a happy relationship?
Oh, yes.
Has it?
Very. I've loved my church.
Yeah.
And, yes, it has. But it, too, has changed. Has your church changed?
I think everyone's church has changed. The people that haven't dropped out by now have had to sit through all the changes. I'm sure they have. Does that discourage you, really?
No. Well, I wouldn't say it discourages me because I believe in the church. And I think that it's going to be here. Now, it may not be in the form it is now, but I would think that it might be. The church is conducive to reverence. And I'm afraid that we're not teaching the children that anymore.
That's very well stated. I like that.
I never step into my church that I don't feel very close to the Lord.
Well, that's good. Has your...
But I believe I believe that in a personal religion, I believe I'm a child of God, and I believe that He dwells within me.
Have you noticed much change in the church in
Oh
all those
my!
years?
Oh my!
What do you miss in the old church when you were growing up?
Well, the church was the center of things when I grew up. You know, if you had a church home.
Yes.
If you had a church home, that's where my friends were, and that was where we had young people's meeting, and we did, and where we had a youth choir. Now we have a youth choir in our church now, and our minister has a young people's sermon, which I enjoy as much as the kids do.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's nice.
And but I can remember Dr. Little married us, Dr. Charles Little married us, and I remember much of, well, of course not a great lot, because he didn't live too long. But then I went into the church. I've been a member, Ray and I both, about 60 years, members of the church.
Were your parents members of the church also?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And of course, I can remember when some of the old Mr. Tom Stitt, and Mr. Sackett, and Mr. O.G. Hill, those men could stand up and offer a prayer in church, beautiful prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And one time when I had Dr. Little came to see me one time, and he was beginning to realize that he hadn't ought to be preaching any longer, you know. He came and wanted to know if I'd take over a prayer meeting service for him. He was asking different ones in the congregation, so I did. And that night, I gave the service. I led the service and gave the lesson and everything. It was about Hannah and how she prayed, you know, for this child. And it was the first time that anyone had ever audibly prayed out loud. Well, out loud, audible, out loud, the same thing. But anyway, I think they were impressed because I was so young, you see, and everything. And Mr. O.G. Hill, he dismissed the service, and he made the most beautiful prayer for me, you see. I remember those. Now, nobody says a prayer in church. They're scared to death.
That is strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Now, I shouldn't say nobody does, because there are a few in the Sunday school class, but nobody in church ever. And once in a while, people used to say amen, you know. You never hear that anymore.
Yeah.
Then I remember Nevin Schatz came to Wabash. He was a fine young man. And then after he came, I think Mr. LeMayle came, and then Dr. Wimberly. And of course, I miss him terribly.
Yes. Were you associated with Dr. Wimberly socially? I mean,
no, because Dr. Wimberly was never socialized with his congregation. If he did, it was with, they came to him, you see. I mean, it was all done in the church. He never got
involved socially with one particular member?
No, he never did.
Maybe that's the reason everybody liked him.
I think he had a wonderful way with his congregation.
Did you remember old J.D. O'Connor?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
His family, and of course Linda and Ann Mahaney were very close friends, and Ann Jones and I. Yes, I was acquainted with the Thurston family, all of them.
Now he was a lawyer, right? O'Connor, wasn't he a lawyer?
Well, I suppose he was. He
Yeah.
was judge, wasn't he?
Judge, and then was he the one that started the Belgian draft horse? And
I think so.
yeah. I was wondering why a man would turn from law into the horse business, but there must obviously been a reason back in those days. And,
Well, do you suppose he didn't do the law too?
I'm sure he did. I'm sure that he
Mhm.
did both. Yeah.
He was a most distinguished looking man.
Was he?
White haired and a mustache, and I think he had a beard.
And I've seen pictures of Dr. Little also, and he had a white
goatee.
And
Mhm.
was he a good speaker?
Oh, he was marvelous.
Was
He
he?
was marvelous. He just talked.
Yes.
Later in life, he just talked. And he'd stand up there by a pulpit that was an old-fashioned thing now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we have it downstairs in the church. And preach. George, his son, became a minister.
Mm-hmm.
And George came back to Wabash and preached in Dr. Little's pulpit. And the next Sunday, Dr. Little got up in church and he said, well, he said, my son preached last Sunday without any notes at all. And if he can do it, I can do it too. So from then on, we had no notes. Most of it was fatherly. He was getting up in years, you know, fatherly advice, and it was really lovely. Oh, I could tell you loads about that church.
Yeah, but obviously you're getting to be, if you're not, one of the older members now.
Oh yes, I expect I'm pretty close to the oldest one, maybe, but I'm not really. But there's not very many of us left. I'm in the older group.
Didn't Reverend Schaff or LeMailey lose a son during World
Yes.
War? Both of them did. Which one?
No, the Schaffs never had any children. But
was he here then? At that time, was he still pastoring here, or had he moved on someplace else when the boy was killed in the war?
oh, Mr. LeMailey, well, he moved on someplace else, I think. Paul LeMailey, and John Magner, and the Wakefield boy. We're all out of our church.
Yeah.
George Porter.
Yeah. Was that quite a shock to the congregation?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
Of course, the war was a terrible shock to everybody.
Yeah. Were you acquainted with the Magners? Well, to be basically, again, you'd be about the same age group, and
Well, yes, we were close friends.
were you, with
Phil and Hazel.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah, that's right. And I imagine they were good company.
Oh yes,
Yeah, I
they
bet.
were, and they were good friends. She and I belonged to the Tourist Club together.
Well, I think we certainly haven't exhausted all the subjects in the world, but I think I've exhausted you.
No, you haven't. I haven't minded it too much.
Yeah, I think it's been extremely interesting, and
I like to hear Carl Schwab's tape.
Yeah, you want the tape or do you want the transcript? Now you can read it or you can listen to it.
I like to have it. Can I have a transcript?
To read, sure, I'll get you one. Yeah, no trouble at all.
But I can't keep it.
Well, I'll see if I can get you an extra copy. It'll be no problem at all. Because he worked for your father and uncle.
And he was just marvelous.
Yeah.
And he points something out to me. He just worked
Carl.
for wages
Yes.
all of his life.
Right.
And I still contend that sometimes the people that do that are the best off
Yeah.
and the happiest. Because they can go home at night. They know where they are all the time. If they don't, they should.
Yeah.
And people that have businesses and are trying to get ahead, they have all kinds of worries,
Killing themselves in the
killing themselves in the process.
You know, Carl, although I think had one knack, was that if anything unpleasant would come along, it would go through his mind and out the other side or something. We spent a couple hours in Lime, Ohio, just like you and I are doing. I went over one Sunday afternoon, And we got to talking about the family, about Carl's family, and
I never knew about his family much.
Yeah.
His own family I knew about.
Yes.
They named their first child after me, Mabel.
Oh, they did?
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, that was the girl in California that died?
No. That was the girl that was in
Logansport?
She was born late July to the Slavs.
Yes.
And Effie. They were good friends of
Yeah.
ours, church friends
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And Effie told me how terrible she felt. She said, my goodness, we'd raised our family, and here I was going to have this baby. But you know, Mary turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I don't know what they'd have done without her.
Why, they'd all been out in the poor farm someplace, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary was very, very good to them.
Oh, I know she was. She's a wonderful person.
And I was visited their home in Lime, Ohio, and she had it as comfortable as, well, more comfortable than what they lived here.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his own facilities, and he was part of the family. He wasn't somebody that was shoved off in the corner, you know.
No, well, he
pulled
was,
up lines
he
down.
was lots of fun.
Yeah.
He enjoyed living.
He was funny. He really was. He got a big kick
But
out
you
of
know, with all their troubles, they had each other, you see.
Yes.
And that helps.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, because she lasted.
And you'll never know that till you're left by yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you have a lot of lonesome moments and.
Is that right over there? On his birthday one day when he was in Wabash, he and Mary were here. And he said, you know, Mother and I never had any worries much until she inherited some money. Oh, I thought I would die.
Yeah.
He was so funny.
Yeah. Carl, you know, Carl was a poor manager of money, you know, by his own admission.
Uh-huh.
He was extremely poor, and it's in this history that he did. And
Uh-huh.
he said that one time, she says, I think I'll take it over and take over the budget, and he says it's all right with me, and that's the way it lasted the rest of their life. She handled all the money.
Uh-huh.
And that's the way it was all his life.
Well,
These are
the
Dr. Wimberly did?
mhm.
Yes.
of July was his birthday, and he died in September of that year. I don't know how long he's been gone, but probably 5 years or maybe more. No, I don't think he's been that long. 5 years, I expect. I don't know how long Mr. Bird's been here, maybe 3 years or 4.
So I'm not.
But anyway, he came here to see me, and we were talking. We were talking about death, and I asked him if he believed what he believed, if he believed the soul left the body as when death came. He said, well, I like to believe that. He said, I like to believe that. And then I said something about fearing death, and he said, well, Mabel, everybody fears death. And that was in July. In September, he was gone.
Was he in his illness then, or he didn't know it, or?
Well, yes, he wasn't well. And I think that retiring from the church just,
Finished.
you know, that does that to men often.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
Especially men that do that type of work.
Yes. Is Mrs. Wimberly still in town?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen her.
She lives in the manse
she
up
lives there.
on. She called me today. I could have gone to Peru with her, but I said, "Well, I have an engagement."
Say, it's been a pleasant afternoon, and I certainly want to thank you.
Well,
and,
I hope you've got something there that won't sound silly.
I don't think it'll sound silly, and we'll type it up and get it back to you for correction. And we really want to thank Linda because she's the one
No,
that.
not Linda.
Or Lois.
Mhm.
Lois. Well, we'll
Yes,
thank Linda too.
She wanted me to do it,
Yeah.
and you know that surprised me.
Yeah.
That she wanted me to do it, and I said. She called me yesterday, and I said, "Oh, I had a note from Miss
Linda Robertson.
down at the library when I first went to Florida, and I didn't answer it till I was nearly ready to come home. I've had trouble. I've had trouble in coordination
Mm-hmm.
with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, I thought I wasn't going to be able to sign my name.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just writing swell again, for me.
Stick with whatever it is, whatever you're eating.
Well, I don't know. I don't know why it was, but every time I sat down to write, I just had an off. It was like a child learning to write. Every letter, I had to think how I was doing it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
And I thought, I'm surprised I ever got over it, because, when things like that happen to you, you don't often get over it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that Lois is persistent as I am in seeing that
But
Mother gets the tape.
You asked me about Ray. Was he sick long?
Uh-huh.
Well, Ray was, he told me one time, he said, in observing other people, I am convinced that I have never felt very good any of my lifetime. He was one of these allergy people, and he had hay fever. And every fall, he would be just miserable. Well, I think those type of people aren't like normal, like people should be if they're perfectly healthy,
Right.
And he felt like that he couldn't enjoy life like other people did.
Right.
And he was constantly trying to find something to make him feel better, So, but when he came home and turned over the business to me and wouldn't even talk to anybody that come to the door that wanted to talk business to him,
Yes.
he'd say, well, I'm not taking care of that anymore. My wife's doing that. And as I said, I always had. But he was the nicest person to take care of that ever lived. I hear the troubles that people have, and I just wonder sometimes why we were so fortunate.
Well, I think that
He really, the year he died, that winter, he was not good at all. And but when I stayed home with him, I only was confined with him for 1 year. And when I made up my mind that I was going to stay at home with him, because he was contented when I was here. And I couldn't go away. I didn't want to go away and leave him. And oftentimes I'd have Russ from the mill come in and sit with. He didn't like that one speck. He knew that I'd arranged all that, and he just didn't like it. So I made up my mind, well, I'd just stay right home. So I stayed that year. We never were separated once. And he was perfectly content, you see. He'd lay there at night on the davenport, and he'd watch TV, and he'd reach over and take hold of my hand. And he just seemed to want to, he'd follow me where I go, in the house. Just downstairs. He never did that upstairs, but downstairs. If I was in the kitchen, he was in the kitchen too.
after 50 years, he was used to you.
I guess he was. He was familiar with my face, wasn't he?
Well, I think that's wonderful. I think that's
Well,
a compliment to you also.
He certainly
really.
was wonderful to me.
Yeah, well, I think that's just great. So I think that on the tape, I think we ought to publicly thank everybody who got the tape together, and I certainly want to thank you.
But I didn't tell you about the girls. Lois went to Western, over at Oxford, Ohio, to school. She went there 1 year, and then, that was during the war, and Cliff was in Indiana, and she was over at Western. It was an all-girls school. Of course, it was a wonderful experience. And it was a beautiful place to be. And so then she went to Toledo and went to the Davis Secretarial School, which was a lovely place. And then when she came back home, she was married when she came back home, you see. They got married in May, and then she went back to school. I didn't think she'd go, but she did. That morning that she was going to have to go away. If she hadn't gone, I wouldn't have been a bit surprised.
Yeah.
You asked me if there was a difference in rearing the different ones. Mark, his father, took care of him. I mean,
Yeah.
he had a lot of influence over Mark. And, of course, Mother and I did a lot of chattering around about the way things should be in taking care of him, too. And then when Lois came, she abided by all the rules. Well, Mark did, too, as far as that goes. She abided by all the rules and thought she had to. She had to be in at 10 o'clock. And, you know, strange to say, she did that. They did that with their own children.
Yes.
I don't mean they've always been in at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
But if they said 10 o'clock, that
was the rule.
When they started to date, they were pretty young, some of them, you know, that it had to be 10 o'clock. And when 10 o'clock come, Ray just walked out on the front porch or wherever.
You'd better be there, huh?
Yeah, you know. Well, it was time for Cliff to go, you know. So he just got up and went. Lois just laughs and laughs about that now.
Yeah.
And then Linda came along, and there was the biggest difference in the world that after when Linda was born and when Lois was born, in 8 years' time, my things had changed. Now, with Lois and Mark, it hadn't. But with Linda and Lois, it sure had.
This interview